A really popular Lightroom question that I get is, how can I make Lightroom faster? Folks, my name's Matt Glaskowski, and while there's probably about 1,000 things that could cause a application to run slow on your computer, there are some things, I've got about 5 tips for you, that you should make sure that you're doing inside of Lightroom, essentially to basically squeeze everything that you can. You know, best practices as well as a couple of settings to make sure that you are getting the most speed that you can out of your computer configuration and the version of Lightroom that you have. So let's dive in and check them out. Well, the first tip is going to be under here under the file menu. I'm not even going to count this as one of the 5. This is one of those just defaults. You should be optimizing your catalog about once a month. Okay, I'm not going to tell you it's going to make amazing changes to Lightroom for you, but you should keep your catalog to optimize. It's just one of those performance things. Keep doing it once a month. Be done. Okay. Now let's get into the 5 tips. Tip number 1. Tip number 1 is a setting to turn on during import, when you're doing your import. In fact, I'm going to go and I'm going to drag some photos here from a folder into Lightroom there and start an import here. And I'll turn on a few different ones. Just click, just so we got a number of photos to bring in here. And the tip is turn on embedded in Sidecar, okay? Minimal would be a faster import. We're not talking about how to import your photos really fast to Lightroom. This is one of those things, do it, walk away. This might take you a little bit longer than minimal, but go ahead and turn it on, okay? Now, when we do our import, you're gonna see a little badge in the top left corner of Lightroom up here, okay? If you hover over that badge, it's gonna say Embedded Preview. If you double click on a photo and get it into loop view, it's going to say embedded preview. Now, it's the preview that was embedded with the raw file. It's not necessarily the full resolution raw file, but this leads us into tip number 2. Okay, so tip number 1 was turn embedded preview on, embedded in Sidecar on when you do your import. Tip number 2 is where that one will help pay off, and that is how to best view your photos. And because a lot of people think, well, I can go to develop and go view my photos that way or whatnot. You have your film strip down here. The best way to view your photos is in library, okay? And what I mean by that is we'll double click, we'll get a photo larger on the screen. With that embedded preview option turned on and you're in library mode, you can be in loop view. I can hit the right arrow key, and with the later versions, the versions of Lightroom that came out last fall of 2017, this should almost go like a video. See that? So it went fast, right? So let's go through. I mean, it's going as fast as I can tap the key. And if I hold the key down, watch, you miss it. See, it goes through that fast. So it looks like almost like a video. If you had hundreds and hundreds of photos in there, it would continuously go through them really, really fast. You wouldn't have that lag that we've had before where you're waiting, the bottom moves ahead and you don't see the photo change on the screen. But that's in library, okay? The second you go over into develop, this changes. So it's not necessarily going to go. It'll still go pretty quick, but it's not necessarily going to go. As soon as you go into develop, and especially as you zoom in and Lightroom starts to build that full-size preview, now it's working with larger versions of the photos, and you can actually see it hasn't built them for all these yet, so it'll still go pretty quick as I go through them. But it's not going to go as fast through everything else. So if you're in develop and you're trying to go through 100 photos and hit the right arrow key, it's definitely going to take a little bit longer. So if you have to go through your photos, you should be doing this inside of your library mode. All right, tip number 3 is a graphics card setting. This one gets kind of techie. What I'm going to do is I get questions from people all the time. This is a really interesting one because I'll get questions from people that say Lightroom is slow, Lightroom is buggy. There's something, I'm getting this weird look on my screen and I'm getting a flicker, whatever it happens to be. Go into your preferences. It's going to be under the edit menu on a PC. All right. And then under your preferences, you're going to go over into performance. There's a little checkbox here. Lightroom is tuned to work with your graphics processor and use your graphics processor depending on the card, the graphics card that you have. So what can happen is if this setting's off, Lightroom performance could seem off. And then you could even have weird things happening. Mostly what happens is if this setting's turned on and it shouldn't be using your graphics card, that's where some of the weird glitches can happen, but it can actually reduce performance if it's on and it shouldn't be. So I can't tell you exactly what graphics cards to use. The best thing to do is to click on learn more. You can find out a little bit about that. And then the other side tip that goes along with it is always make sure your graphics card drivers are updated. But I can't tell you how many times, this is one of the first things I send to people when they tell me they're having problems is I say, go in to this section here, and if it's off, turn it on. And if it's on, turn it off. And I seriously can't tell you how many people come back and say that that's helped. That did exactly what they need, and it made Lightroom faster too. So a lot of times it gets rid of the glitches and it makes Lightroom faster. So you can find out a little bit more about that just by clicking on learn more. It gets a little techie as far as graphics cards go, but definitely worth some research there. All right, the fourth thing, increase your cache size. So you see this little setting here, camera raw cache settings. Give it a try. It's not one of those things, especially this is probably going to give you a little bit more bang for your buck in the develop module, but try increasing this to 10 gigabytes. Try increasing it to 15, okay? Again, I'm putting little other tips in here that aren't actually tips. They're just general computing tips. Increase your cache size, but a lot of this also depends. You have to have enough free disk space to be running these heavy lifting programs. So if you've got Lightroom and Photoshop open and maybe two of your other plugins or whatever it happens to be, you're using up a lot of computer memory. If you've got a 1 terabyte drive on your computer and it's got 950 gigabytes full, that's not enough space. So make sure you have at least 20% space open on your computer. If it's a 100 terabyte drive, you shouldn't have any more than 800 gigabytes filled on it. The less, the better. Even I say 20 to 30%. But give this a try. Increase your maximum cache size here. Restart Lightroom, and then you might see some develop module improvements in there. Things could work a little bit faster. Moving on down the line, we are going to go into our catalog settings, which again, under the edit menu on a PC, Lightroom menu on a Mac to catalog settings, and make sure that automatically write changes into XMP is turned off, okay? This slows things down. If you've got a reason to turn it on and you know who you are, go ahead, turn it on. I don't have a need to. I use Lightroom, that's what I use. I don't care if my settings are set in XMP. I'm not worried about what happens if I don't use Lightroom one day, okay? I know Lightroom has all my changes. If you jump to another program from Lightroom, all of your changes will be embedded in there, so you won't have to worry about it, okay? So keep it turned off. I keep it turned off. Again, I know some people like to turn it on for whatever reasons you have. Go for it. Just telling you, it's one of those performance things that takes longer and definitely can slow things down. All right. I'll finish that. That was 5. That was my 5 things. I'm going to finish with 2 more little things. And that is one thing a lot of people don't know. We keep our photos on an external hard drive. The speed of that drive matters. So if you have them on a USB 2.0 drive, things are going to be slow. If you've got your catalog on an external drive, things could slow down. The other little final tip here is click down here, go into your preferences, and you'll see it says more performance tips under the performance section down there. It says more performance tips. Go ahead and click on that. There's a lot of little things on the Adobe website that might help you out, and you might find something in there that you didn't know about, and who knows, it might save the day for you. So, folks, if you like this video, I do lots of videos like it. I would love it if you would subscribe to any of my channels out there. So, if it's YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. You can subscribe. There's even a little bell to ring to get notifications when I post videos. And then same thing on Facebook. Wherever you're watching this, like my Facebook page, same thing. There's a little notifications section, so if you want to get notified when I post a video, I'll let you know. Okay? Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you again real soon.